Hello and welcome back to Politics on the Rocks for episode 5. That was Down Low by Town Mountain to bring us into this evening. As always, I'm your host, Nick. To my right, we have Chris.
Hey there, bud.
Across the table, we have Bookie.
Good evening.
And of course, we, as always, our physical host, because we're at his house every weekend, Cameron.
That's it. Hey, guys. All right, special guest this evening, Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey. You guys got a little glass going already?
Let's do a first sip.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Episode
6.
6.
Wow, 6 already.
Wow. Let's give it a taste.
That's pretty nice. Pretty smooth for a bourbon. I mean, you know, we've drank a lot of nice bourbons, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's
This
like
isn't the one from Florida, right?
No, this is the one from Washington State.
Nice.
No, I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty.
Really smooth, and then it kind of has a little bite at the finish, but it's good.
Always like a good bite on the
would you
finish.
look at that? It's from Woodinville, Washington. Would you believe that?
Wow, I wouldn't believe that with a name like Woodinville.
What original name.
Anyway, as always, guys, please give us a like and follow on Instagram at politics.ontherocks. You know, if you guys have recommendations on what you want to hear us talk about, what you want to see us drink, what you want to see us smoke, please shoot us a message. You know, we are learning how to do this with you guys. So if there's things you like about the show, things you don't like about the show, be brutally honest with us, because we're not going to know otherwise, because we're just going to keep doing what we do. And that's getting drunk on the air and talking shit. So a couple things we're going to talk about. We all kind of talked before the show and felt, you know, we had to bring up the Chaplin Towers in Surfside, Florida collapsing. It's just a really tragic thing, and our hearts go out to, you know, all the families that are still waiting to hear news about, you know, missing loved ones, and it's just really sad. So of course we had to bring that up, being Floridians. We're going to talk about Florida's push to different subjects in education, I guess. There's civics education and civic post-secondary. There's a couple things within that we're going to talk about. They want to start teaching the evils of communism, etc., etc. And a little more local, we're going to talk about Indian River County sheriffs. They're pushing for them to wear body cams. So yeah, let's start the show. How was everyone's week? As always, we got to talk about, you know, the weekend week. Good week, everyone?
That's all good.
Good.
Is that good? It's all good, bud? Oh, shout out to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know Chris is not...
Go Habs, go, bud.
Yeah, okay, bud. Oh, shit, we didn't figure out how to get that on the TV.
Oh, no, that's fun.
I'll ask the wife in a little bit.
Yeah, get Emily on that. Our angel co-host, or whatever she is, behind the scenes.
Yeah, she'll get on it.
What's everyone smoking tonight? I got another Alec Bradley, because I bought a shit ton of these. Alec Bradley Tempest.
I got the
Looks like a good
champagne
cigar.
from Perdomo. Good one.
Got Nica Libre.
And Bookie smoking my pole.
And I'm smoking Nick's pole tonight
Golly.
with a side of life. So.
And look at that. 5 minutes in, we're already demonetized. Anyway, you want to jump into this book?
Yeah,
we're
going to start with Daddy D stuff? Or
Yeah, of course. We always got to kick it off with the big Daddy D.
Ooh, Daddy D.
Yeah.
So, Daddy D just recently signed a couple bills into law having to do with civic education. Some of it doing with K through 12, and then some other stuff doing with post-secondary, so college. The three bills were House Bill 5, which is civic education curriculum. It requires the Florida Department of Education to create an integrated K through 12 civic education curriculum that includes an understanding of citizens' shared rights and responsibilities under the Constitution and Bill of Rights. It further expands required instructions in high school to include a comparative discussion of political ideologies that conflict with the principles of freedom and democracy essential to the founding principles of the United States, such as communism and totalitarianism. This bill also provides a library of portraits in patriotism based on personal stories of diverse individuals who demonstrate civic-minded qualities, including those who have moved to this country after being persecuted in nations like Cuba and Venezuela. So that's the first one. The second is...
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. He's covering a lot of ground there, old Daddy D. Second one is Senate Bill 1108, which is just civic education. Requires state college and state university students to take both a civic literacy course and civic literacy assessment as a graduation requirement, bridging civic education between our high schools and post-secondary institutions. The bill further requires high school students to take a civic literacy assessment that has no stakes in their graduation. But if they do pass, that means they can bypass that test in college. The bill also expands the character development curriculum for high school juniors and seniors to include instructions on how to register to vote. And the third civic bill is House Bill 233, post-secondary education. It requires state colleges and universities to conduct annual assessments of the viewpoint, diversity, and intellectual freedom at their institutions to ensure that Florida's post-secondary students will be shown diverse ideas and opinions, including those that they may disagree with or find uncomfortable. So that's the three main civic laws he passed recently that people are kind of been talking about. So we'll jump right into those.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump in.
Do you guys just want to go about it as we feel or go bill by bill?
I say let's just have a open discussion and get, unless you guys...
No, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of encompassing.
Yeah, they overlap.
Same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
While you were reading that first one, the second you said totalitarian, Chris looked at me and laughed, and I thought it was... I was
Just like, I don't know, just the idea of the state imposing a curriculum where you have to teach that totalitarianism is bad is just like hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Also, after we're in Florida, so we didn't have to go through a lot of it, but after we just went through that year of absolute totalitarianism in this country. So I guess it is important that, it be taught, but it's just funny that it's state imposed.
Yeah. It's like that's the definition of totalitarianism.
Yeah. Certain levels of it.
You're going to learn about totalitarianism,
but
whether you like it or not.
Well, wait, it's Ron DeSantis, so it can't be.
This is your first law.
right?
The first rule of totalitarianism. Don't talk about it, but do in schools.
Yeah, so I just thought that was I thought that was a funny kind of point to bring up. It's we're going to teach totalitarianism by being totalitarian, and forcing you to learn about it.
Well, it's like anything where you're teaching something that you look at something and say, well, that's really what a totalitarianism is. It's Cuba or it's this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But they never ever can see themselves in that, right?
Right.
Like.
Well, it's like with any, extremely
exactly.
disgusting regime, I guess is the best word I could come up with. It's like with any regime, it's like it doesn't, like, for example, I know this is a very, over the last couple of years, very touchy topic, but it's like Hitler. He didn't come out and that, like, wasn't, killing Jewish people and, Down syndrome and colored people wasn't, like, the base of his... political stance in the beginning. It's all, you tiptoe in that direction. And I'm not saying, obviously Ron DeSantis pushing for this is him, I'm not trying to compare the two, but
right.
They like to show the most extreme examples of it, but they never like to show like
the mild cases.
Right. Like, exactly what
here.
this bill is. Yeah, exactly.
That's with most things, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
The thing that I recognize the most is, especially because of my background, is like religious, like churches. They'll use like the religious people as like an example of like what not to do, but they never can like reflect on themselves. So like, am I also very like religious in this? I'm talking about like being legalistic and things like that. But they can never like recognize. They can just like point, but they can't see it in themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to build on what you're saying, like. So many people will look at religious people and be like, oh, like those people will just want to push their beliefs on me. And then like they turn around and just like push their beliefs on other people. But it's not religious beliefs, so it's okay.
Right. That's something else. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thought when it came to like him trying to get the first bill down, just easy for me to think about like that. And the K through 12 curriculum for the Constitution and Bill of Rights, like And at first glance of things, that seems fine. Like, it seems like an understandable thing to teach. I mean, I'd be wrong if I said it doesn't give me some type of sketch vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just always something weird about, like, in my mind, when the government in a government school teaches children why the government's good. I don't know. It's just it's just kind of weird. Even if I agree with some of the things they're saying, like, it's just like, I don't know. That's just like a weird kind of slope you can get onto.
No, I mean, yeah, you're
it's like,
completely on point.
You know, like, what happens if, like, I don't know, in 50 years, Florida leans a different way, and then, like, the governor is like, well, actually, we like communism and totalitarianism. We're going to teach why it's great.
So let's just get it out of the way right now. This is what happens when your school is publicly controlled.
Yeah.
That's so funny because I was waiting for Bookie to finish talking because that's exactly what I was
Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat.
Because I know, like, the last
multiple times.
Yeah, the last 3 or 4
yeah.
episodes we keep talking about, like, you know, if this is the system you want, this is what you get. Like,
you don't have a say. Everybody does the same thing,
Yep.
and if you don't like it, then that's too bad.
I guess the only, like, good thing you can look at this too is, like, it's public schooling. So, like, during the, like, press conference he had, I was kind of watching it, and, like, he brought up the Department of Education head or the commissioner, and they were talking about how they're going to go through and get this curriculum down. It's just like, I've been through, you know, at least elementary school, public school in Florida. It's not that good. I don't see how this class is going to be any different. And, like, I'm sure, like, half the kids going through this aren't going to come out any smarter in what they're teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, Bookie, it's the Constitution.
Yeah.
If anything, I mean, I honestly don't think very many public school teachers have a great grasp on what communism actually is. I think a lot of them are probably of the, you know, typical conservative mindset of, as I see a lot of anarcho-communists on Instagram say all the time, they're always like, government or communism is when the government does things. And I always think that's kind of funny because, I mean, they kind of have a point there. Like, that's what most people view communism as, is like, as soon as the government does anything, that's communism. It's like, all right, well, you know, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but you bring up a good point because it's like, I don't want to say it's subjective, but it's going to be taught so subjectively.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That it's kind of like one of those things. How do you, I don't know what I was
standardize
it.
it?
Yeah, exactly. How do you, like, standardize it? And it's
Yeah.
funny too because,
Yeah.
you know, if this was done in a reverse fashion where we had a Democrat in House or whatever and he was imposing that we learn, for example, we talked about this on episode, I think, 4, critical race theory. If we had a Democrat, or was that last episode?
Who knows now? We've done so many.
We've done so many. It's so hard to keep track. But no, if we had, like, for instance, a Democrat congressman, or congresswoman, or congress they, and they were imposing that we learn about critical race theory or, you know, something that, you know,
Or even like a social democratic socialist. Like
exactly. It's like, how would that be any different? I mean, you could argue that one idea is better than the other, but at the same time, it's no matter what way you look at it, you have the state imposing a curriculum on your kids,
Right.
right?
And
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. That's what's happening.
and telling them that this is the right thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, it's like that's a big thing where it's like, it's like, yeah. I mean, you guys can pick up after this, but it's one of those things where it's now taught, at least the way he talked about it, where instead of just showing people, and I'm not sure how much communism and totalitarianism they're going to get into in, like, you know, elementary school and middle school stuff. It seems like that might have been leaned more towards high schooler stuff. Right. But even still, like, how much, like, is that going to sway people to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is bad? Or even the fact that, like, is this going to affect anything? Or, like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is, you know, I feel like in school you should be exposed to different ideas and you should get, you know, the basic grasp of them all, but the fact that your public school teacher is telling you what's right and what's wrong,
That's the problem.
I think that's a problem. Yeah,
when it comes to this thing, which isn't like a science or math that's been proven.
Because this is the public school is a state arm, and so the fact that they can tell you what's right and wrong is a huge problem in my opinion, because they're a state arm, as I just said. They will
use that in their benefit.
Yeah, they will say whatever the state is, whatever the state's favorable towards
in that moment, right?
Right,
Which
exactly,
is
in that moment, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and this reminds me a lot of I shouldn't have even said that because I know I'm going to get shit for this, but it eerily reminds me of how in World War II and stuff, how Hitler had like Hitler's Youth or whatever. And they taught these different things. I mean, obviously, learning about the Constitution and like, I know I'm taking it to the ultimate extreme, but that's where kind of
it definitely
starts.
gets more extreme once they get into high school.
Right.
So like, I think there is a good parallel there.
Right. So yeah, it's just kind of it's eerily reminiscent of basically bringing propaganda into schools. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what you can kind of
They're more
extrapolate.
They're more upfront about it right now.
It's
been happening, but this is more of a straight out like, we're saying this is good, this is bad, here's why.
Which personally, I mean, I can't. I as far as the bill, like what they're trying to do, I don't think it's necessarily nefarious. I can't really see a nefarious intent about learning about the Constitution and things like that. But just to kind of hammer the same point that we've all already made is. It's not the state's job to do that. It's not the state's job to decide what is most important for your kids to learn. Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, that's up to you as the parent.
That's true. And also the fact that, again, like we've discussed, there's going to be things where with a state-run, civics class where they're going to be now teaching more into what, again, communism bad, totalitarianism bad. They're not going to touch on the things that's happening in our own government that might lean more towards those ways that happen, right? Mm-hmm. So it's already skewed in that sense, where it's not really a truthful telling of. It's more of was it rose-colored glasses approach to this in a sense? Like, I guess in the aspect of teaching, to touch on it again, more about the Constitution, more the Bill of Rights. That sounds, I guess, if you're going to have a civics class, you should probably be taught that. But it gets weirder, again, when they start teaching, like, communism bad, totalitarianism good. What we have in America, democracy, is good, when I think all of us around this table right now would say what we have right now in America is not good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's agree with that. It's just interesting.
So some of the critics of this of these bills were anyways, that this is a response to like the red wave or the red scare or whatever. So that
back in the 40s, 50s.
Yeah. So they're looking at it like, now there's a Democratic president, blah blah blah, and Desantis is sort of doing his thing and flexing and so forth and signing these sort of bills into to office. So that's one of the things that they mentioned, and also, and Bookie kind of mentioned this, was that will we not talk about like the negative parts of like our government's past and things that what I'm saying? Is it just going to be like you said, rose-colored glasses?
Of course we won't.
Yeah.
It's not even our past. It's like what's currently going on.
Well,
that too.
That
right.
too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's the thing is they'll be more than willing to criticize the people in government 40 years ago and what they did. But they'll never bring up what's happening now and, the implications with that and how that is totalitarian. That won't be brought up. It'll just be, 60 years ago this happened and that was bad.
Yeah, but don't pay attention to what we're doing now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, trust us. We don't do that anymore.
No
way.
We're the government. You can trust us.
Yeah. You can't trust them 4 years ago. We're different.
Yeah, we're...
Even though we have still half the same amount of people in the Senate.
Exactly. 40 years ago. That was not that long ago. So it always cracks me up when people are like, "Oh, well, yeah, that was so long ago," and it's like, that was one generation ago. Like those same people are still around. What's so different?
Alive.
Yeah, what's so different now?
Yeah, it's interesting how you can skew something in the sense of like you could teach it, but allow like an acceptable amount of it by kind of like skewing the definition. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
What it reminds me of like the whole, that was so long ago thing is whenever Jimmy Carter was president, he they brought up because the Iran hostage crisis.
Oh, right, yeah.
Happened during his term, and someone asked him during a press conference. They were like, President Carter, do you think that this has anything to do with the fact that 20 years ago we overthrew the government in Iran and installed a government, like a U.S. government puppet, basically? And he's like, oh no, that's ancient history. That's what he said. It was literally like 20-something years prior.
And check it out.
We've been at war for
2021 and we're still doing the same shit.
Yeah.
We're still air quotes, spreading democracy across the Middle East.
That would be like if someone from Al-Qaeda said that 9/11 was ancient history.
Yeah.
And we're
but hey, wait. They hate us because of our freedom.
Yeah. We're recording this on the 28th, and I'd like to congratulate the U.S. government for bombing Iran and Syria.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you again.
Oh, no,
guys.
Iraq.
Oh, yeah,
Yep,
that's right, Iraq.
Not Iran yet.
It's good to see that
That's
the wheels keep on turning, no matter who's in the Oval Office.
So when they said that things were going to go back to normal under Biden,
that's what they meant.
Apparently, they meant we were going back to 2005 and bombing Iraq.
Hey, man. People with AK-47s over there really affect our freedom.
How is Raytheon, Lockheed Martin? How are they going to make their money, dude? Come on. Get with the program here.
I did kind of want to bring up that last bill, which kind of goes into more of the post-secondary stuff. They talk about doing, I think this is the one that kind of covers more of the assessments they're going to do in college. I don't think my synopsis in that doesn't go over it, but they're going to have in colleges now, the teachers or professors and the students will take an assessment every year, and supposedly it's not going to ask, write out, are you a Democrat, are you a Republican, and stuff like that, but it'll ask questions that will kind of get an idea of what your viewpoints are, and apparently it's going to go through some type of algorithm and see how diverse the schools are based on that information. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not really sure what the point of that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of just concern from especially the faculty in the schools. They, see it as this is going to be a survey that's going to potentially cause people to lose their jobs or something because they don't have the right opinions, or which is highly unlikely, but I could see why they'd be concerned about it.
Yeah.
Especially in a red state.
Well, my first thought was the right a lot of times, and I sometimes agree with this, hates forced diversity, right?
Right.
They'll cry about it every time it happens. But in a sense, what Desantis is trying to do with the post-secondary bill, for what it looks like, is ensure that there's forced diversity in colleges.
Right.
So, it doesn't really make sense to me. It's I don't know. I understand where he's coming from in the sense, he wants to make sure, I guess there's diverse thought in colleges, but, you're going to force it? That's kind of hypocritical of you.
Mm.
Yeah, Republicans are pretty stupid, though, so.
Yeah, this we know. But we got to make sure everybody else knows.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good point. It is. I mean, they haven't said that there is any plans for what they're gonna do about it if the college is 99% liberal or whatever. But I don't know.
To go back to Nick's point, we're just gonna put these stars on you. It doesn't mean anything. Down the line's gonna happen.
Yeah. Just wear this armband. It'll be okay.
I made an Instagram post for that when they were talking about doing the whole vaccine card thing, and I got so much shit for that.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh, you're trying to compare vaccine cards to this, that," and I'm like, "No,
that's the thing.
I specifically said that's not what I'm trying to compare. I'm trying to compare what led up to that with what is happening now. I don't know why that's so difficult for people to see.
They're looking at it with hindsight, which we know what happened afterwards,
right?
And you look at what happened leading up to the Holocaust. It was a lot more subtle than what
subtle, kind of like a vaccine card,
right?
An identification card,
exactly. And I think it's
I'm the asshole, guys.
It's 100% comparable.
Not only that, where were these motherfuckers when Biden was calling all of Bernie Sanders Nazis?
Yeah, all of Bernie supporters Nazis.
Oh my God, give me a fucking break, please. Where was your virtue signaling then? No. I digress.
Instead of the brown shirts, it's the blue hairs.
Yeah. Such a joke.
I think a question I kind of want to pose to all you guys, I had to kind of thought about it when I was reading these bills. So, in a sense, you would think by doing this more civic bills to influence, people know more about the Constitution, more about the Bill of Rights, and as they go into high school, know that or are going to be told totalitarianism and communism is bad. Do you think this is necessary to produce a highly functioning citizen in society?
I don't think anything that the state teaches you is going to make you a highly functioning citizen in society.
Yeah, that's kind of what I came down to too. Yeah. That was like, I don't feel like the way I listened to that press conference and what I got out from it was kind of that was his intention. I could be wrong, but it was more of the idea of, this is to make sure everybody knows these things and people are aware. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I think people either know it or they don't, and they'll, more than like.
And teaching a class on it isn't going to change.
Yeah,
that.
and younger people in general are more left leaning, and typically as they grow up and they start paying taxes, they get a little more right leaning. That's just how it works.
When reality sits in.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't, but typically when they're Hollywood elites. So, and I don't think it's necessary for everybody. If you're walking down a street, point a flashlight in their face and say, "Hey, read me the first lines of the Constitution." If they can't read it, fuck you. You're not a good citizen. I don't think that's necessary.
And not only that, it's like there's such an emphasis, at least in regards to these bills, of learning about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and things that we inherently have as Americans. But I think specifically over the last year, we've learned that the Constitution doesn't really mean fuck all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that would you guys agree? Like, it is one of the most important documents in our history, but at the end of the day, when it comes to these politicians, it doesn't really mean a thing to them.
Yeah, if they can get away with it, then they'll
have
trample
for
over
the past
the
year,
Constitution,
right?
Yeah, and there's amendments they put in place where you just declare emergency and you can become a dictator.
This country's gone to war how many times without proper approval now?
Yeah.
It's true, man.
So while I can appreciate the sentiment behind learning about the rights we have as Americans and our basic human rights and things like that, at the same time, there's 4 congressmen in the entire country that actually recognize that. The rest of them kind of just bend the words to
Thomas Massey, Eric Brakey, Rand Paul.
Yeah, Anthony Sabatini.
He's in the Florida.
Yeah, he's low level.
Florida legislature. But
there's literally 4 or 5 politicians that actually give a shit about freedoms.
No, that's true, man.
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
Dr. Ron Paul, the things we could have had.
I just one of the things that I've learned a lot about when it comes to the Constitution from just listening to a lot of good libertarian podcasts and stuff. Shout out Tom Wood's show. I think that's probably where I learned a lot, most of the stuff I know about the Constitution.
You introduced me to him. He was my first.
If you guys don't know, too, just real fast, Tom Woods, he's a Florida too.
Oh yes,
Florida native. So shout out to him.
Yep.
Florida man.
He's a man.
But is the constitutional conventions that happened while the people who were trying to sell the Constitution to the country, which were the people who wrote it, they went around to a bunch of the different states and held conventions, and they answered a ton of questions about the Constitution. And I think that is where you get a lot of the most valuable insight when it comes to the Constitution, what the different articles and stuff actually mean and what they're intended to do, because there's a lot of just play, they play with the definitions and stuff when it comes to writing law, and they try to create loopholes by creating definitions that weren't intended to be read that way, so that they'll read things in a certain way that weren't intended to necessarily be read that way.
Right, they bend the definitions around.
Right, and if you look at the constitutional conventions in I believe Virginia and Kentucky, those are 2 of the most important ones that really go into detail about how some of these clauses that are used nowadays, like the general welfare clause, which basically, according to progressives, lets the government do whatever the hell they want, because as long as it's for the general welfare, you can do whatever the hell you want, according to them. So, there's some good insight in those conventions about why those are wrong. Those interpretations are wrong. And are they going to teach that? I doubt it, because I never learned about those ever. I never even knew those existed until I listened to the Tom Woods podcast and read them for myself.
Yeah, I think that's just a good example of how
state education sucks.
State education sucks, and you really can't learn anything unless you really want to. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you're forced to go to school for 5 hours, 5 days a week.
You have to be sort of a curious person to really want to learn.
Engage and learn, right?
So that's a good point, man. And just from our conversations about this, and we brought this up so many times because he's doing so much. There's so much activity.
Flexing, as you said.
With Desantis in, the schools. And we've talked about public schools so many times, but Chris brings up a great point. Curiosity. It's something that is a lot of times stifled and said, hey, this is what you should know, this is what you should learn, But someone who looks at, I encourage people to be curious, Be curious. Go and look, find stuff, like...
Don't take my word for it.
Exactly.
Even though we're always right, you guys should still double check us on everything we say.
Yeah.
You don't have to because we're right, but...
Well, just wade out into the waters, Look into stuff for yourself.
Challenge yourself. Challenge your beliefs. Because honestly, I was, and I'm, I know Chris relates with me on this one, but, and not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were on a roll, but I was like the typical neocon, just as Republican as you can get, and. It wasn't until I started, I sat down and I really started questioning some of the things that I was, I guess, chanting, for lack of a better term.
Was one of the things you were chanting was, turn the goddamn Middle East to glass.
Hey, back to blue. But no, basically. But it wasn't until I started challenging myself and my own beliefs and started, actually learning about some of these things that I realized... oh, the Republicans have it all wrong too, and that's kind of where I ended up. But I hope I did.
No. I mean, I think that's a great point. And it is. I think we probably all came to this same idea in a very similar manner. If I'm, not wrong, right?
It's almost like a crossroads.
Yeah, I mean, I think curious people who are open minded about something and not just said, hey, this is the way you're supposed to believe, because I think we all get that from our parents and so forth. Hey, we're conservative and Republican, we lean that way, or we're Democrat and we believe in whatever, But I think you really should challenge yourself, wade out into the water, do your own research, say, hey, does this really make sense that we've been to war for however many years
since the 60s?
Right. I don't know. I just encourage people to go out. Ask the questions, because even with these things that we just brought up, these bills, you look at them and you say, well, I don't like communism, don't like totalitarianism, and it's okay, so yeah, it's a go, I'm totally behind that. But when you start opening up like we have and looking at it and say, wait, now if the other party was in office and they started signing bills for the other direction,
Yeah, let's say, which is one thing we hear all the time, evils of capitalism. And, so what if they started teaching about, why, basically private companies are evil?
Right.
Right. How would we feel about that? And, most people on both sides have a point to an extent, because the system we're living under now is definitely not perfect capitalism. It's more of a corporatist economy is what I would describe it as, where the government is heavily involved and they favor certain companies over others. And so that's something. If they started teaching about why capitalism is evil, we'd be like, wait a second, this isn't capitalism. But then when we say communism is evil, they'd be like, wait a second though, that wasn't real communism.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like, and I know I've said this in quite a few episodes already, the pendulum always swings backwards, So
Yeah.
while, just to kind of hammer the point you were making, Cameron, while from I know a lot of conservatives are in favor of this type of thing, just remember that whatever decisions are made in regards to what can and can't be taught in schools, it can also swing the other way.
Right.
Kind of like Chris was saying, where, what if we had a Democrat in the state and they came up with a bill to teach the evils of capitalism, exactly like you just said.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing, is it not? I mean,
Yeah.
See,
that's the difference between this very tribal thinking, where you say, my party good, Desantis good, whatever he does good, And so it's the difference between that sort of thinking and like a principle thinking. Like, wait, I don't want the government instituting this kind of thing at all.
Yeah, it's like thought police.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a challenge to go deeper instead of just say Republican good, Democrat bad, or vice versa.
Well, I think the hardest thing about what you just said, is like when you start looking into a lot of this stuff, you start realizing that, a lot of the things that you learn that have become foundational for you are completely flawed. And if that's your foundation, that it is rocky. It's hard for, a lot of people to face those kind of roadblocks and get through them and start, really opening their mind up to these different ideas. And,
yeah.
I've had a lot of friends who have listened to the podcast and just, the short few episodes we've had. And, we're not trying to change anybody's mind. We're just trying to give a little insight into a little more objectively thought out ideas about what's going on in the world. But I've had a lot of friends that have, approached me and wrote me and been like, hey, you guys had some really good points on, X, Y, and Z. I never thought about it that way and blah, blah, blah. From both sides, a lot of my, more liberal friends, a lot of my more conservative friends. And, I know we're getting way off track. I think that's the main point of this podcast, right? Is just kind of introduce people to a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, I think we get very, I don't know the word for it, but we think of two things.
Yeah.
We're taught to think of two sides, Republican, Democrat. And the challenge is that there's no really third option,
Especially when both options suck.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so we're challenged to think that way in so many different things. It's this way or it's this way. It's this way or it's this way. And the challenge is it's not necessarily just those two ways. You're just taught to believe that there's only two ways.
Yep.
And the challenge is be curious, wade out into the waters, look into different stuff, do your own research, and say, hey, ask the questions.
Don't think about it from one side or the other. Think about it from, do you think that's right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing with what you were just saying with how we're for the most part, every single issue is divided between one or the other. Like there's two options.
Right.
You're either on the Democrat or Republican side. But then we have the one third option, the Libertarian Party. And they've been pretty bad.
Sell drugs to
historically
kids
so far. Yeah, yeah. They'll come out for a presidential election and they're like, "We hate driver's licenses," and it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like we're in the middle of a pandemic with like a totalitarian government, and you're talking about we shouldn't have to have a license to drive our car. Like, yeah, no, we agree with that, but like, who cares? Yeah. Like, that's not, in the grand scheme of things, that's not something you should be talking about in a presidential debate or any sort of,
it's like there's
office seeking position. Like,
so many opportunities.
So out of touch.
Yeah, so many great opportunities in this last year for the Libertarian Party to step out and go, and I think they would appeal to both sides, and they just fell flat on their face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why, if you're interested, share our podcast.
There you go. Good segue.
Yeah.
Always share this to your friends. Or don't. I don't,
Politics
your
on the
friends
rocks.
might hate you. They might think you're a domestic terrorist, but
It's okay. No, I mean, I think my last thoughts on this subject is to kind of piggyback what you guys are saying, the left or right thinking. No matter, like, you can actually sum this up in almost every episode we've done doing with Daddy D, is...
Oh, Daddy D.
Even if you might, like... Or even if you might say what he's doing is a positive, he's just adding another sheet of paper to Florida's humongous book of laws.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what we want, at least in my opinion, to be doing. You should be taking laws out to give more freedom
to the people,
to allow people to make these choices. And yes, in some aspects, things he's doing might be beneficial even in the short term or long term, but he's just making government bigger, which you may disagree. That's a bad thing, whatever it may be. I would totally agree that it is a terrible thing to be doing because, like we said, the pendulum, once we get a different person in power, there's this path already paved to easily change these things with amendments, and now it swings completely different way. And again, this is the big thing with this is the terrible thing with big government. It's so easy to just take over once it's put in place because it never gets taken back.
So if communism is when the government does things, is the government teaching us about how communism's bad communism?
That's like political inception.
I'm a little too many bottles of whiskey down.
Yeah, I can't think about that too
But
hard.
if this table wasn't separating us, I'd kiss you right now. I mean, spoken so well.
I think you guys should, regardless.
That's on our OnlyFans, actually. That's our $15 tier.
Yeah, we have exclusive content on there.
Yeah, there's a link on
yeah.
Instagram.
We do a monthly completely nude podcast with video, so you guys might be interested in that.
It's only waist up, but
Yeah.
the treat's still for you.
And
But you know what's going on below the waist.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to give a big shout out to Bookie for this insane upgrade. We had a really, really big upgrade this for this week's podcast. We got a black tablecloth.
Number white plastic table.
Yeah, it actually it kind of really sets the mood though. I think.
I'm pretty sure I already burnt a hole in it.
That's all right.
You did. I thought that was there before.
Me too, but
now that I'm looking at
that I think about it,
that
it
was like
definitely
a cigar
not
burn.
there before.
Like I feel like if you put your cigar up to that, it would fit.
I
perfectly
didn't even get close because I was holding it with my foot and I lit the cigar under the table and I was like at least 6 inches away from this
this
thing.
is why we can't give homeless people free.
I know he starts burning the tablecloths and.
But to piggyback off what Bookie was saying, with just like increasing the size of government, Desantis actually signed like 44 laws on the books that one day when he signed.
It's crazy.
I read
ridiculous.
like a whole list of them, and one of them that really stood out to me was it is now legal to use your knees in massage therapy.
Yeah, I read that.
Why was that illegal in the first place? Like, all right, I could see why some people would be like, no, I don't want nobody using their knees on me. But okay, you just got to tell your massage therapist, don't use your knees. But like, if that's a legitimate way of administering massage therapy, then why is it illegal in the first place?
And if it's, I think the way we could go about this, if it's illegal, just take that law off the books. Don't make it legal.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Because now you're just leaving it up to the next time someone wants to change it, they can just amend it. Like he just did.
Yeah.
Oh, bananas.
So
right, and you bring up a good point. Isn't it interesting how they never repeal anything? It's always like another law to undo a law that can like you just said later be like amended to reverse. And why don't we ever repeal anything? If a law is so stupid that we're making a law to undo a law, why not just repeal that law?
Yeah, too much.
Yeah,
It
like
ends
the
up
ATF,
looking,
why don't we just repeal them?
It ends up looking like the amendments with prohibition, and then now prohibition's canceled. It ends up looking like a grocery list.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why people, which kind of leads into our next topic, aren't the happiest with police officers because at any time you could be breaking 10 laws walking down the street.
Are you tired of scam phone calls daily? Constant calls about your car's extended warranty even though you drive a piece of shit 20-year-old pickup? How about your college loan that you didn't have because you barely made it through high school? They are constant, annoying, and depressing. Lucky for you, Scammers Agony has something you may be interested in. Would you like to make these scammers feel really terrible, Maybe to the point of ending it all right there in the middle of the phone call? If your answer is yes, then it's your lucky day. Let me explain how this works. It's 12:15, you're at lunch. You're about to eat your liverwurst sandwich, and just as you're about to bite into it, suddenly your phone rings. It's a scammer. You yell, "Shit, not again." You used to have two options, answer or just ignore it. Now you have a third option. It's time to make these assholes pay your interrupting. It's time to make these assholes pay your... It's time to make these assholes pay for interrupting your 30-minute lunch break from your terrible job. Let me explain how it works. It's linked directly to your phone via an app. Scammer's Agony picks up the call and begins its magic. They use real people to interact with your scammer, leading him down a long, drawn-out conversation, all the while other employees of S&G are finding out specific personal details about our scammer, for example, where he lives, where his kids go to school, his wife's name. These details are important to how it all works, but the specific formula cannot be shared. However, you will be sent a recording of the full conversation and a guarantee that whatever slimy imposter son of a bitch who called you won't call again. This product is not just another tool in your arsenal, but a way of life. Stop getting pushed around. It's time to get empowered by Scammer's Agony.
I don't know. Before we go into an ad, I had a couple of thoughts on this, and we try to bring solutions, if you will, or ideas at least to the table about maybe ideas that would be better than what we have today. Of course, we all have the idea that public schools are terrible and that a privatized thing would be way better. But I had some ideas about just a rating system, where you have and they have this on some level, with colleges.
Yeah, rate my professor, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like rate my professor, whatever. And where you could rate the teachers. Is this a good teacher? Does she take care? Does she take extra time to do certain things? Does she explain things in multiple ways? Just a system where you could rate your teacher, and that could heavily influence to whether or not this teacher, stays teaching or maybe gets a raise or something. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, I mean, because I know a lot of these things are instituted from a Republican standpoint, kind of saying, well, we have these super liberal colleges and they're very biased in the way they're teaching, and they're manipulating the way they're saying things, and they're not allowing kids with conservative ideas to speak up, and that's how you get these kind of bills where they're allowed to record their teachers and so forth. But I think it would be interesting to kind of be more privatized with it, and have students really rate their teachers, and that'd be a really an interesting way to I don't know, just judge the teacher and whether or not that teacher continues teaching or
you bring up a really good point, because they have that like we've already mentioned, they have that in colleges, but because of the amount of government influence and state and federal money that's in colleges, no matter what these teachers the air quotes grade they get on Rate My Professor, whether they're doing a good job or they're not doing a good job, or their political ideas are influencing the way they teach and grade, it's because there's so much government influence. It at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So, like you said, if it was truly privatized, I think you would see a lot more action from a system like Rate My Professor. But I think you're implying at a high school and even maybe middle school or
right. Sure.
So,
and if it really had an influence on how their career progressed,
right?
I think it would, if anything, it would have the effect of forcing these teachers to present really a neutral point of view,
right?
Because if you're teaching something that's heavily left wing, you're going to get 1-star ratings from the right wing kids. You're going to get 5 stars from the left wing kids, and you're going to average out at a 3.5, or maybe maybe a 4 if you're left wing. But then if you're a right wing, you're probably going to average out like a 2.5 because you're going to get 1 stars from all the left wing kids, 5 stars from all the right, so forth. But if you're teaching a neutral type of discussion where you're showing both sides, you're not necessarily demonizing either side, but you're showing the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. I feel like you could get, a good grade from both sides, and that would be fair because you're really showing the full scope and what's good, what's bad about both sides.
Yeah, and not even when you start talking about like middle school and even elementary school, you're not really thinking so much about like a political bias. You know what I'm saying? You're not so much thinking about a political bias, but like just whether or not this person is good at teaching.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. I mean, so me and Bookie have been going to school. I mean, we went to elementary school together, we went to middle school together, went to high school together. So we've known each other for a little while. But we had good teachers, and then we had great teachers. And I can, think about Sabra, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, what a great teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like, got down on our level, like, really dug into the information, like, just,
really tried to relate it and get you guys excited. Yeah, I've had teachers like that, man.
So
it's a world of difference.
It's a world of difference.
Yep.
And to, like, just butt in real fast, and to think, if I can remember correctly, because it's not to show our age, but it's been quite a while since we had that teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had to guess for the time, she'd be more left-leaning politically.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I don't remember her, besides trying to save animals, ever really putting politics into their teaching.
Not at all.
I mean, it's kind of hard when teaching math, but still, I'm sure some people do. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, did you ever notice that, Chris, in engineering school? I mean,
None of my engineering professors had any sort of indication of political leaning or anything.
Yeah.
Which, there's really no opportunity to put that into like a math
I had
class,
one professor, he taught software programming the entry-level software programming. And he would just, make like snarky remarks about Trump or whatever, but as far as my college experience, that's like the most extreme I've really...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I would have to think in general...
Well,
most studies you don't see this unless it's like a psychology and maybe like a philosophy.
Yeah,
maybe history. I could see it.
I mean, even history.
I went to like a really school like way northern New York, almost in Canada, and it's just known as like frick yeah, bud, and so we got a D1 hockey team and that's it, but. It's just known as like a school.
Tampa Bay 1-0.
Tampa Bay's up 1-0 right now. God damn it! But it just really, basically, my school was really engineering focused, and so we didn't have a lot of that. But then towards the end of when I was there, we started getting more into business and a little bit more of like history and things like that, and that's when we started to notice a lot of. Politically affiliated, if you will, professors started to come in. And I took a sociology class as an elective, and that one was pretty, like, the professor was obviously very politically aligned, and he, every single day we heard about it. It was pretty ridiculous.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just here to learn about what I want to learn about.
But that's sociology for
I'm just here to learn why Freud wanted to fuck his mother.
Right.
Not why.
I'm just here to find out why.
Yeah.
Answers.
I think the social sciences obviously can be pointed to a place where politics has come in for a long time. Not like a tangent to get onto, but just a quick saying is like, now we've seen recently it's been happening in the hard sciences, which is really frightening because then it can have actual consequences in our lives.
Yeah. Well, and I think sociology is one of those things where the people in that field tend to view people in groups. They don't view them as individuals, and so that's that contributes to how they see the world. Us obviously we see every person as an individual who has their own autonomy, and if you don't see it that way, then that's obviously going to affect how you see the world pretty drastically.
Yeah.
But just an idea.
I think that's I think that's a really good point, and I think that's a pretty good libertarian viewpoint to end that topic.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any other last remarks, last thoughts?
I think I'm all set.
Let's move on to the next one. Indian River County Sheriffs
Oh yeah,
implementing. So maybe this is news to me. I thought they had to wear body cams already.
Yeah, me too.
You thought?
Apparently, yeah, shit.
Yeah. So in River County, sheriffs are going to be equipped with body cams. Currently, I think only a certain percentage, like maybe 20% of the sheriffs have them right now. But supposedly by the end of July, all the sheriff deputies will have them.
It's a $1.9 million project.
Yeah, which is, I guess.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
it might make sense, but it's definitely a high price for.
It is pretty. That was way more expensive than I thought it was. I
Yeah,
was like GoPros. I was kind of just like, how much GoPros cost? Like $300 a piece.
Like software to, but I looked at like an older article, maybe from like 2018.
Wait, how many deputies can there be in Indian River
I think it was
County?
like 150.
And it cost them $1.9 million.
I think it was 1.3.
Dude, I feel like they're getting like the most state of the art shit with like
It's 1.6.
they have like a crew that does the video for them. Like,
well, so
there has to be something.
Just
with
like
this.
I think it is a lot of money, and obviously it's government.
So wait, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So let's just say there was 130 deputies in Indian River County.
Which is not even close to that.
It's
I
lower,
don't
right?
think, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think. It's lower, right? You guys agree?
Yeah.
130? That's kind of
150
a lot.
comes to my mind, but I'm
150?
totally probably wrong.
All right, well, I would say since we're on the low end, you're on the high end. 130 seems pretty. That's $10,000 a camera.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
what
a
the
good,
fuck?
That's a good point to just to
I
point
guess
out.
maybe
but
they're
there
paying for the service, like a continual service
Yeah.
with the video and stuff.
again, this is government, so they're going to get screwed no matter
Well,
what
yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
And to what I looked into, they have to pay for the cameras, the service fees, the technology to upload it, and to have servers to hold all the information because they have to hold on to that because now it's
Right.
evidence or
Right.
people to screen it. So if there's anything in there that has to be blurred out, people have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's understandable, and
Yeah.
they should do that. But still, I feel like it's a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
I mean,
you could get like a 48 terabyte hard drive for $2,000. Like,
Nick, you're making too much sense.
anyway,
Yeah.
government spending. But yeah, no,
No,
continue.
I just want to, like, while we're talking about the spending real fast, I did see an article again, maybe 2018, that stated when they were first looking at this, their like idea was like, oh, this might cost like $700,000. So obviously that was a little bit low compared to what.
So
they
that was a fucking lie.
No, I mean, I've whenever I did roadway design up in New York, I saw what the New York State DOT pays for a fucking light post. Like 50 grand for a light pole. Just chill out, guys. Just chill out.
So what you're saying is $10,000 for a body cam is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, in government terms, yeah, it's pretty reasonable.
it's a low end. They might not be able to see anything. Maybe you could just.
It's going to be all blurry.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a 1990s security camera.
What do you guys think though? Body cams on police officers?
So,
I
and
don't think it's
Well,
a bad. I can't
sheriffs,
think it's a bad
I should say.
idea.
yeah, I don't really see it as a bad idea either.
Yeah, I like.
I mean, even from their
I like the idea a lot.
standpoint, if you're really doing valuable police work and stuff, like, you should want this. You should want
I agree.
us to see what you're doing on a daily basis and what how you're helping the community.
Right,
Well,
because from yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because from, like, if you're an air quote good cop, you would think from your standpoint.
That was hard for you to say.
Yeah.
So I had to put it in air quotes.
Yes. But no, if you're a good cop, from your standpoint, you should want this because not only does it cover your ass from doing good police work, but it also helps, air quote, weed out the bad apples, right?
Right.
So I can't.
So-called bad apples.
Right, so I can't imagine any, air quote, good cop would be against this.
Yeah, so the way I looked at it was the same way. It was good for like keeping the cops like accountable,
Yep.
right? Like for instance, the bad cops would be made aware pretty quickly, and also to protect them against like false accusations and so forth. So I don't have any problem with it. I have a couple of different ideas about it, but I mean that seems like a good idea. You know, if they can fit it into their budget, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. The thing with body cams is obviously with the technology has a rise that they can have them now. They can stream to their servers. It gets uploaded. Things are seen, like you guys have mentioned. It's great because now if you're a good cop and you have to go to court because someone disputes something you said, you have recorded. That's great. And if you're a bad cop, well, now we know because we've seen all the videos online. Mm-hmm. You know, just recently the case just ended with.
But Bookie, what about the context?
Yeah, right.
What happened 5 seconds before the video started?
Yeah,
classic. The thing I do want to I think we'll get more into like body cams and policing and stuff like that. But just to mention, like, a PSA, I guess. I don't have one personally yet. I hopefully will soon. Is a dash cam.
Oh.
Okay. I've gotten into this rabbit hole.
So wait, just to reverse PSA. What is that? Just for
personal
our listeners?
service, or is it a service announcement?
Public service.
Yeah, public service announcement.
Oh, okay. I thought you were okay. Never mind. Go ahead.
So dash cams. I've gotten into the rabbit hole of people who rate auditors and police interactions online, and it's been super interesting. And a lot of the times, even though the police have body cams, having your own dash cam can help you a lot too.
Oh, I bet.
Because they can manipulate their body cams if they so choose. Right?
Manipulate their body cam, and again, it's only seeing what they see.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of dash cams now too,
and they can keep things out of view that maybe you
correct.
Can't see, yeah.
But dash cams can also record your
audio,
your own audio, and your speed.
Right.
So a lot of people look at body cams like, okay, this is for like when police get physical or when something happens with firearms and shootings. But you have to think about that happens on, thankfully, even though it's terrible when it does happen, on such a small scale comparative to every police interaction.
True.
Mm-hmm. What happens a lot, right, is minor infractions that we get tickets for.
Yeah.
Speeding, running
Which
lights.
Now that they have $1.9 million bill, we might see a lot more of those minor infractions popping up.
Correct. So all these small things
gotta
that
pay for them body cams
that people don't think about. And if you have a dash cam, I mean, I'm not going to say. I personally am not going to say cops are bad. They're bad cops.
I'll say it for you.
Thank you. But but again, so if a cop pulls you over, you're not speeding, and now they have a body cam. That doesn't really help you because their body cam's not going to record what their radar says if they're even using it. Right? They pull you over. They say this. You have to make sure you know your rights and how to use the Fifth Amendment right to not get yourself in trouble, and then it goes to court. And it's this big thing. But if you have a dash cam that records your speed, well, now you have this data that shows you all this information that you can bring to court, and now you win this case.
My question to you is, does the court recognize a dash cam's recorded speed, though?
I think most do.
Is there like a standard, or is there like
there probably is?
Because I mean, any sort of hardware or software can be altered. I mean,
correct.
It's really not that hard. If
and
you
a
know
lot of that,
a little bit about anything.
And again, we can go into our law system and how it's corrupt currently, how it is based on money. But the thing you would have to look at is the argument you use against your dash cam could use against the cop's body cam in their own word. But again, this is just saying that the more visual and audio data you have, the better for you, even if you don't think you're going to be someone who's going to be in an altercation with a cop physically. Because again, how many times you get pulled over? And I mean, these videos, I've gone down a rabbit hole, but this woman got pulled over. She pulled over to the side of the road, and she took off her seatbelt when she pulled. No, thankfully not. But she took off her seatbelt.
Sounds like something a cop would do, bro. I don't know.
When she pulled over, out of instinct, like that's what I would do. And as soon as the cop approached the door, she has dash cam, right? So you're looking at her dash cam footage. He talks to her. How you know why I pulled you over? No, what's going on? She's like, well, you don't not wearing your seatbelt. Well, she's like, no, I just took my seatbelt off because it's just out of habit from when I, stopped my car.
Pulled over.
And he's like, no, you weren't. And it's on her video.
Right.
Yeah.
You can hear the click.
You can see it.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
You can see on our dash cam her taking off. So again, I'm not going to say all cops are bad, but there are things that happen when you get people certain
they'll just
power.
Take advantage of what they see in
Correct.
the moment.
And
they see, oh, she's not wearing her seatbelt. There we go. Got her.
And cops are people. and people are fucked up, and people get power.
So wait,
it
did you just
corrupts
say
them.
cops are fucked up?
In a roundabout way? Yes.
Humans.
Yeah.
No,
But
so if they get the body cams, they'll continue to have the dash cam as well.
are you talking about cops? Yes, cops
Yeah.
will continue to
Oh,
dash
they
cams.
always
So
have.
you're
Yeah.
just saying that it's super
As a
beneficial
personal dash
to
cam.
have your personal
as a private citizen have
Okay.
your own dash cam.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Russia style.
No, that's a cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and you know that's funny that you just said that, Chris, because most other countries that driving is a pretty standard thing. Germany, Russia, most other countries, their citizens that's like almost like as standard as like a rear view mirror.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, in Russia, pretty much everyone has a dash cam, and the reasoning is because the insurance is really not cooperative there, so they need like very good evidence of
Sounds like
what
our
happened.
insurance.
Well, yeah, well, it's a lot worse than here as far as what I hear, because they actually need like a first-hand video footage of the incident. Otherwise, their insurance is gonna be like, "Oh, don't know, I don't know, man, not good." It looked not good to me.
What are you doing? Is that Russian?
That's
It looked a little sketchy to me, you know.
There you go. That's a little more Russian.
I was a little more Mexican.
Yeah, the Mexican Russian over here.
And we're canceled.
We need more vodka.
Yeah.
the only Russian thing you could think of at the moment.
Yeah.
Stroganoff.
Stroganoff. But yeah, no, I don't. Yeah,
It's just, I think,
Still 1-0 Tampa Bay, just in case anyone.
yeah, I just
Okay.
checked.
this is hockey, by the way, they're talking about. But I just think body cam's great. It's on our sheriff's department. Awesome. As technology arises, we can video more things. Because if you look through past lawsuits and things that have come up years later, and even just in general when it comes to having cops' first-hand experiences, people's first-hand experiences, our memories are not good.
No,
That's
especially when you're in
that's like a scientific fact.
a high stress scenario.
Yeah, even not in a high you ask people how many.
There's something called trauma-induced amnesia, and that's where you forget things in high stress, traumatic events.
Even not
It's
in high
even
stress.
yeah, it's even more likely. But as Bookie said, like just humans, literally just don't remember specific details, and if you don't remember them, your brain will basically make shit up to fill in the blanks, and you will believe that it is true.
Yeah, you're not
because
lying.
Your brain's telling you,
telling your own truth.
right.
So the fact that they have the technology now that can bridge that and hopefully make it more transparent is great. And my just little recommendation is, hopefully I'll do it soon. Take my own word for it. Is get my own dash cam.
I've been thinking about that for a while, but I just never.
Yeah,
never
I mean,
pulled the trigger.
I
no,
mean,
it sounds good, man.
us being our own, because again, on average, you don't really run into the police that often.
They're
Right.
very cheap nowadays too.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah,
Just get yourself a Russian dash cam.
see the UFOs in it.
So,
And the meteors.
So one of the things that because I was trying to make a case for, body cams. I think it's a great idea, and one of the things that came into mind when I was, doing my little study on this was the case in 2017, which was the raid with her name was
Breonna Taylor.
no, Ulterior Woods.
Oh, was that here in Gifford?
Yeah,
Yeah, where they shot her?
So Breonna Taylor was a very similar case.
Yep.
Actually, this one that happened in Vero in 2017
Was before.
was almost exactly
Yeah.
the same situation that Breonna Taylor, but
This
Taylor-
was before, right? Or
this was 2017.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor was recent. So this was a very similar case to that, almost exactly the same.
Mhm.
And the situation where they're doing a drug bust, they're looking for
Another
her
no-knock
boyfriend-
raid warrant.
Yeah, it was exactly a no knock warrant. They're looking for the boyfriend who has cocaine, or was supposedly had a bunch of cocaine on him, and they do this no knock, and whatever ends up happening, right? Somebody shoots up the house and ends up killing this girl, and
And her pregnant.
and she's
she was
pregnant.
pregnant, right,
She's
yeah.
pregnant, right? And the whole argument was that they were using her as a shield, and that was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
As Breonna Taylor was
Yeah,
very
kinda.
similar, but
They just make out the person they were going after to be like some sort of coward that was using a woman as a shield.
Exactly.
It's the most convenient excuse.
Exactly,
Right?
and there's no evidence of it.
Right. It's like, I know we rolled up to this house with M4s and MP5s and shot the
unannounced
fucking thing
and
from...
fucking busted the door down. And,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Without
Like,
with
right.
no
Like,
knock warrant.
Just to pause, like, what the fuck would you do if some random person busted your door
yeah.
down?
And
Yeah.
so there's so many issues with these no knock warrants.
So many.
So this
wait.
is kind of.
Hold on, are you about to read off some stuff?
I was.
Okay, just state what a no-knock warrant is for anybody who doesn't
Well,
know.
I was going to.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Before
shut
you-
the fuck up, Bookie.
Before you rudely interrupted me. So,
Wait, before you... No, I'm just kidding.
no, so our
Wait, hold on 1 second. Just go ahead.
I'm going to tackle you for Cameron if you don't shut
no,
up.
so our boy Rand Paul, right? We
Yep.
mentioned him earlier. He's the one who came out with the Breonna Taylor.
Yep.
Breonna Taylor.
And then immediately got maced,
Bill, basically.
and the crowd screamed at him, say her name, even though he wrote the Breonna Taylor
Yeah.
law. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
pretty interesting. how that
Yeah,
happened.
say her name. He's like, I wrote the fucking bill, but okay, I know her name.
Oh, let's attack her.
Yeah.
Attack the guy that's only.
That's-
Literally named my bill after her. But
Yeah, that's
Literally
trying to
the-
avenge her death, right?
literally
yeah.
the only guy avenging her.
Only guy in Congress that gives a fuck.
Yeah, yeah, that pretty much.
And they
sums it
threatened
up.
his life.
Yeah, but let's attack him and his wife.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway,
We
go
do
on.
it.
so
Sorry.
the details, you guys can help me with this about a no-knock warrant. But from what I understand, is you literally have to just state you're a police officer, and then you could just come in. Pretty much is what I understand.
Yep, pretty
So-
much.
so-
I don't even know if you have to announce that you're a cop.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure they announce they're a cop as they're busting in.
Yeah.
Like, we're the cops!
Right,
Yeah.
Like, just smashing your door.
right, yeah, with
It's
It's
like,
like-
as they drive their, state-funded, state tax dollar tank through your front door, they say, "Hey, we're cops," and if you do anything to defend yourself, they have every right to kill you,
oh,
Yeah.
and everybody in the house.
and
Pretty
everybody in the house.
Right. So anyway, so
And all the dogs, especially.
Yeah, Waco.
the dogs
Never
are
forget.
getting killed. So if you're a dog person, you want to think about this.
Yeah.
This bill. Anyway, so our boy signed that into, well, at least tried. Anyways, so I got a couple, little
Mike.
statistics on this bad boy, but
Oh, we got the
police
numbers.
stuff. Okay, so no knock warrants has increased substantially over time. By one estimate, there were 1,500 annually in the 1980s, so that were issued, right? Whereas by 2010, there were 60,000 to 70,000.
60,000.
And this is 2010. No knock raids conducted by local police annually. Majority of which were looking for marijuana, which seems reasonable, right? No,
Yeah,
obviously not.
let's shoot your entire house up, and maybe plant some C4 and blow your whole
Right,
house
so-
up for a dime bag.
Right, exactly. So these.
But
things-
hey, if you're in California, medical. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, there's so many problems with that we could talk about. But anyway, so I want to bring this back to body cams. Especially in this particular case, which was in our own town, where this girl gets shot up, right, for her boyfriend who supposedly had cocaine on him. We
Victimless.
we don't know what happened. Anybody can say anything. Oh, he was using her as a shield, or he wasn't. We have no idea. Or this guy with a machine gun was shooting in the side of the house. We have no idea what exactly happened in that situation. If we had a body cam on these individuals, we would be able to know what exactly happened in that situation.
But even then, it comes down to, are they going to release that footage? Because we had
Duncan
a
Lemp.
bunch of cases, and exactly what I was about to get to is Duncan Lemp up in Maryland. He
Horrible
was
story.
suspected of, dealing drugs or whatever.
No,
And-
was it? Well, I thought initially it was because he posted pictures with the air quotes militia. Wasn't that what started it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought he was suspected of having drugs. I thought that,
I mean, that's the convenient
But,
excuse. So you're probably right.
But he
That's
did.
probably-
He spent some time with the 3%er militias, which I have my own thoughts on the 3%ers. I think a lot of them are, a lot of them are well-intentioned, patriots or whatever. And but I think a group like that is so nationally known and known for being anti-government and all these things that have been around for so long. Over half of those people are FBI agents.
Yeah, don't get involved. just to our listeners, if you can take any advice from the show, unless you personally know these people, don't get involved with these air quote militia groups because they're FBI honeypots. More 100%. Than likely.
Don't involve
and that's not a conspiracy theory.
Shit.
You can look into this shit. Historically, that's what they do.
If you're looking to be involved and in just self-defense and being organized with local people and things like that, get involved with people organize, have a plan, for when things happen, what you guys are going to do, things like that. But getting involved with these groups that are nationally renowned anti-government groups, you're just asking to get involved with federal agents that are trying to fuck you in the ass.
Dry. No lube.
So
yeah, no,
that's what I think about that.
But anyways, that was something that I thought about when we talk about body cams.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something to be said about
no,
that.
you're right, yep. But I think, I know we got way off track when, Chris brought up his point, but
I always bring us way off track.
Yeah, that's typically what happens when you mix whiskey with, political talk. But he brings up a really good point. Is there any sort of...
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, of course, man. Is there any sort of clause or anything that would protect these agencies from presenting this, these body cam footages to the public? Because, sure, great, these cops have body cam footage. Under what legal precedent do they have to give this footage to the
you
public?
Have to submit like a request for information, and
they can deny it.
And under whatever pretext they can find in the book that can give them the ability to deny it.
Right. It's been 2 years, and I think the Lemp family has been constantly requesting the body cam footage to be shown, and it's
So until you get a lawyer that can do the work that forces them to release the footage, there's really nothing you can do.
And that's granted, you have the money.
To pay thousands of dollars to do that.
And I think some of that might be state by state. Because I think once there's a precedent of something in the law, or not in the law, like in the courts, then it's like a little easier.
Okay.
But still, doesn't take away the point that, like, again, based on the laws how it is, because right now you can still file a report and try to get the dash cam footage of something that's happened. But again, like you said, if they find it not feasible or not warranted for that specific reason, they'll just, say no. So, that goes into the bigger dive of the military police that we have. But
right. Well, yeah, I mean, and this kind of goes back to Cameron's point with the whole no knock raid stuff. This started out, so like SWAT teams and things like that initially were invented for good reason. I would argue. I mean, I don't want to say I'm anti-cop. I'm very anti-state cop. I don't think the state should have a monopoly on these agencies, but that's a whole different topic. SWAT teams were initially invented for good reason, hostage situations, things like that, where your standard patrol cop,
they're a little more specialized,
right? They don't, a regular patrol cop doesn't have, one, the equipment, and two, the skills to deal with something like that, So initially SWAT teams were invented for that. And then they realized, wow, we're spending a lot of money on equipment for these guys, a lot of money on training for these guys, and we're not using them that often. So then they started using them for warrants, felony warrants, etc. And then eventually it turned into these no-knock raids, which now, I don't know if it was, from a budget standpoint to justify having SWAT teams or whatever it was. Now they're using them for all kinds of things. Specifically no knock raids, which complete,
for marijuana.
For,
I mean,
for marijuana, right?
It probably gets used mostly for marijuana, I would assume.
Or any drug for that
And,
matter.
yeah,
Well, I
any
mean,
any drug.
You can say
Yeah.
marijuana is probably the easiest because it's most abundant.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And it's, like, of course, probably. All right, cool.
Yeah, Florida, we have a
remember-
lot of coke here, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the state's job to decide, what you're ingesting. But that's another topic as
That
well.
is another topic.
Yeah.
We'll do that on another podcast.
Yeah.
We should do like a
I feel like every podcast we have a topic. We're like, I will do that. On
yeah. No, but not to. We're getting way off track, but we should do like an episode where we don't talk about anything like local. We just do libertarian ideas across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That
so
would
be the episode we lose everybody.
yeah. They're like, oh, these guys are domestic
Insane.
terrorists.
They're actually insane.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's just been one of those things where you have more state money coming in and you have more money going to the cops, and it's like now you see cops driving, armored vehicles into houses, ripping doors and windows off.
Yeah,
it's like
too much.
What the what is going on?
What are
like
we
we're
doing?
not in the
I'm here to
Middle
protect
East.
you.
Yeah, I'm here to protect you from yourself, and if you don't let me protect you, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
No. What happened to the negotiators? What happened to those people?
They actually turned into armored 8 tons that rip your doors off.
I think they're just in movies.
Yeah.
So the argument with no knock warrants, right, from a cop's perspective, is that like you need them, right? Because if you're trying to find something particular,
You're trying to catch them off guard.
exactly.
So why
And
not pick them up while they're driving down, to Dunkin' Donuts?
or they're sleeping, right? And so you bust in their house and you find the
Well, even if they're
2 pounds
sleeping,
of-
I mean, that's exactly what happened with Breonna Taylor, no?
right. Yeah, I'm just saying this is their
Right, yeah,
justification.
I'm sorry,
They're
yeah,
saying
go
they're
ahead.
coming in and finding your 2 pounds of cocaine,
Trying to catch them off guard,
that
don't
you're
have time to
that you're
hide
hiding
it.
under your bed, right?
Yeah.
And so
And that's exactly what happened with Duncan Lemp too.
yeah.
And one of the things that they that kind of stood out to me that they really publicized was that Duncan Lemp apparently had a shotgun rigged to his bedroom door so that if you open the door, it would.
He lived with his parents, didn't he?
Right, right.
It was him and his pregnant girlfriend living with his parents.
Yes.
But yeah, he had a shotgun rigged to his
apparently
bedroom door.
Yeah, apparently he had a shotgun rigged to his door so that when you open the door, it would fire. And it's like,
Meanwhile,
wait a
the
second. This guy
girlfriend
lived with his pregnant wife in his parents' house, and his parents didn't seem to have like any clue of anything that was going on. Like judging by some of the interviews I saw with them, and it was like, first of all, it just seems like an exaggerated lie. But also, even if he did, that's his bedroom door. Like, don't fucking go in then.
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, and his girlfriend and his mother both testified that they shot into his bedroom
Through the window.
outside his room.
Yeah.
They shot his pregnant girlfriend, who was in critical condition for like a week.
And then they threw a flashbang into the room
yeah, and
with
then
his pregnant girlfriend.
right.
It's a miracle that child survived.
I remember why they raided his house because look at these two. They're like,
Well, like on the other side of the table is like they're going for it.
they're like, who the fuck is this guy? Who's Duncan? Who's Duncan Lemp? No, apparently Duncan Lemp was posting like, remember they went after him because of stuff he posted online?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a combination of,
Well, he was working on an alternate social media.
Yes. Yep.
Which
like
was-
encrypted, like off the grid kind
Yeah,
of thing.
very off the grid social media
Yeah.
platform.
He was like,
So
he
that
was 22 years old. He was like a software engineer. He was like in school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of convenient that he
Died.
died, and he was working on this kind of project that could have helped people communicate without being
Under the
tracked by the
watchful eye.
government.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it almost is to.
I mean, not saying it had anything to do with that, but
Let's put our tinfoil hats on, guys.
you
Yeah.
know, let's
Put 'em
throw
on,
'em on.
put 'em
No,
on.
I mean,
Yeah.
So
that's
let's
like
throw Alec Jones hats on.
that's a terrible case, and like, not to say it's more terrible or less terrible, but like even what Cameron stated, the woman that happened here, I had no idea about that, and it happened
Yeah.
in my own town.
It's literally like 4 miles from where we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
and like, not to say like because it happened here, it's worse, But I do think there is a little proximity bias that should happen because you can affect it more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, why? I don't know why I didn't see people not rioting, but like saying stuff about this.
Yeah.
Like that's like I'm against no-knock warrants completely. Like I think it's bullshit that's even a law
Yeah. I
that you
agree.
can do those
Come
things.
into somebody's domain
property.
where they're supposed to feel most safe,
Yeah.
and they're not. And if they try and defend themselves,
Under
you
the-
have every
under-
right to kill
under the
them.
guys
That's insane
that-
to me.
You can't police well enough to get them otherwise.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's such in conflict with like self-defense.
Yeah. No, you have a right to know why you're being detained and before you're being detained. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you, it's not enough to be fucking on the ground bloody after they just came in and shot you and killed your dog and fucking threw a flashbang in your bedroom with your pregnant girlfriend, and then they say, "Oh, by the way, this is why we're arresting you." That's not enough.
Oh, we're the police, by the way.
Like it's
Yeah, like,
it's
oh,
gotta
I had
be,
no idea. It's fucking 4 a.m. in the morning, and you just blew open my door.
Yeah. Like I would.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you know, if
Yeah.
someone blows open my door at 4 a.m., I'm sorry, but my gun is only 2 feet away, and it's gonna be in action.
Well, I mean, it's a terrifying event.
Because I don't know who the fuck you are.
Well, it's a terrifying event, right? I mean, you're
being
sleeping
woken up.
Disorienting,
Yeah.
and yeah,
I mean, it does. It just. I mean, I don't know, man.
It's putting people.
and especially when your wife is right next to you, your pregnant wife.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
way
that's
more
just
apt
fight
to
or flight just kicks in
Protection.
And even
immediately.
with the one here, your girlfriend,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, that she's not gonna be pregnant, but she's still a bystander. In the
Right,
whole-
she's still your loved one that you can
Exactly.
argue whatever you want about drug dealers, what their morals, whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you have your loved one next to you in bed, and if flashbangs and gunfire start going off, what's your first reaction? Waking like,
yeah, you're in your underwear, waking
yeah,
up.
you're putting these people in a no-win situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where if someone's like for no-knock warrants, and it's like, but we have to get them, and they can subvert the law so easily, or we have to make sure we can get them in a certain state. Okay, but just acknowledge the fact that these are used mainly, and I'm going off a limb here. This isn't fact, but I would assume like 80% of the time for victimless crimes doing with
Yeah.
marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Or
not-
cocaine.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I mean-
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Any drug, right?
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, anything, but it's like just to talk to like people who like may say like, oh, maybe cocaine's bad. I don't think so.
He
But
uses cocaine all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Boogie's
using,
an avid cocaine user.
I'm using cocaine right now. But like people can like, and again, if we're trying to like appeal to people, like people
Right.
knowingly now can see marijuana as something that's not terrible. Like these are
It's not justified that someone busts down
Yes.
your door and throws possibly lethal munitions at you
and kill you.
in the interest of
Shoo,
getting
that bottle
rid of
went
that.
quick, boy.
Boy.
Oh yeah,
And
break
this
out
is-
the bullet, boy.
And
You
this
want me to go
is
grab it?
no, and this is
Yeah.
what no-knock warrants are probably used for. I would assume
Oh,
80% of the
drugs.
time,
It's
drugs
drugs.
and and marijuana. Like I would assume it's always mostly marijuana.
Probably most of the time because I mean that's like you said, it's the most common drug.
Yeah.
The podcast is sponsored by Analology, a breakthrough supplement line with rectal breaking science. No reason to delay the bioavailability of your supplements any longer. With Analology's patented ass shoot technology, our specialized China surplus personalized supplements can reach your system faster than any other on the market. No need to wait for digestion. No lag time for pre-workout to hit. Save money and space on those protein shakers. Our supplements are created to work with our ass shoot conduit in 3 easy steps. You can be ready to go regardless of the time. Rip open a pouch of desired supplement. Shove anus in the air. Just shove your anus straight up in the air. And then stuff the conduit right down your anus. And then pour a bag of conduit down with a half cup of water. It's pretty simple, really. And then you use the code on the rocks in my anus for 80% off of your first order. So don't let gains slip by anymore. Shove your ass up and get jacked. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so I would assume that most of those no-knock rates are for marijuana charge or marijuana suspicions.
I think that'd be a fair assumption.
And I think to a large amount of people in our society right now could say, well, that's horseshit. Like, why are we pretty much disobeying people's rights to go within their property because of marijuana?
Especially when it's decriminalized in quite a few states now, recreational in a lot of states, and most states are using it for medical purposes.
Yeah, I mean, you drive through town and there's a dispensary.
Well,
And you're allowed to go into that dispensary and get, marijuana as far as you need it for whatever medical purposes you may have. But if you're selling it on the black market, you're going to get your door busted down and they're going to shoot at you.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
my issue is not so much with that, is the fact that, like, this is in direct conflict with, like, self-defense law. Like, if someone busts in your house,
I have a big problem with that as
Yes.
well.
if someone can bust in your house, you have the right
Yeah.
to shoot them.
If you
Right.
bust
So-
into
so
my
now-
house unannounced,
Yeah.
fucking Tampa Bay's up 2-0. God damn it.
well, I just want to finish my thought real fast.
Okay.
So
Game 1, baby. Game 1 in Tampa.
So
It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing but a
They
thing.
Canucks gonna deep throw that lightning duck.
All right,
So-
go ahead.
Yeah,
Just
the
to
Canucks
say-
are going to...
just to
Oh, wait.
connect the people,
Wait, no. Sorry,
Go
I
ahead, bud. Go ahead.
misunderstood.
Yeah. Shut up.
just to connect the people, if they're using this law to get people at marijuana, mostly, right? I would assume, again, I'm not saying this is fact, but I would assume this is mostly used to get marijuana charges. This should be a red flag. This is what can happen when something gets put in. Probably when it first got put in was for, oh yeah, we need to get to the bad people. The people who are really hurting society. But it mostly gets used to get people who are just selling weed.
Mhm.
And that's just fucking bullshit, man. Like, this is like the main cause of why you need to stop government from growing. Because
That's a good point.
even if you think government's doing something good when it first starts with the new law, it'll get bastardized to the point in where they're breaking down your door and shooting women or men for marijuana charges.
Yep.
Like, that just should not be allowed in our society. Like,
And I know you're putting a big emphasis on marijuana, which I think is fair, but you could argue this point for any drug.
Oh, I
really.
you could. I'm
You
just
know what I
using
mean?
it as
Yeah, no, I
it's
know
the
you
most
are.
common.
Right.
People can get behind that
Right.
most easy.
Yeah.
Get behind the fact that it's mostly harmless and there's no reason that people should be busting doors down to try and confiscate it.
Correct.
And there was one case recently I think it was in Pennsylvania, and there's pretty hilarious pictures of it. And all these SWAT team, like the SWAT team was lined up outside this
talking
like
about.
tiny little house. They had about 20 guys, all with state of the art equipment, just lined up, ready to knock this fucking door down. And they came out with about a fistful of the most disgusting looking brickweed I've ever seen
Dirt.
in my life.
Yeah.
It was maybe like a couple eighths. It wasn't even an ounce, if anything. And it was just like, why, we're using these we're paying these guys to, well, I mean, I guess we would have paid them regardless, because either they'd be sitting in the office or they'd be busting someone's door down. But, the bottom line is we're using these resources in places where they're not useful. And, they could be used somewhere else.
And the fact that someone could die.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Exactly.
that never
The
gets
issue.
thought.
On top
never
of it, you're putting people's lives at
Right.
risk.
Yeah.
And people might say, criminal lives
But
don't
hey,
matter. But
if
whatever.
we get a gram off the streets, right?
Yeah.
That's what it comes
insane.
down to.
That's
It's
insane.
really it's disgusting, really. I mean, you're putting the safety, well-being, and the lives of people who are, I mean, for all intents and purposes, are just trying to get by, really.
You know how you fix
Well-
it though? You get out there and you vote.
You vote, brother!
No, I mean, but I mean, from a very, if you bring this thing back, right, and just lay it down for what it is. Okay, this guy probably was a coke dealer, right? Probably not a great person.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he has coke in his bedroom. Cops are watching him. They say, "Okay, this is the best opportunity to break in." Does that justify the opportunity, even the slight chance that you may end up taking somebody else's life who's not necessarily involved in
a
whatever
bystander?
Yeah, that he's not necessarily involved in what's happening. You know, being killed for that. No
Yeah.
way, dude. No way does that justify that. That's the question. This is
In
the kind of
every
thing you have to
other
ask.
situation, we value human life over anything else.
Exactly.
But in that situation, it's like, oh, well, they were affiliated with criminals.
I was
so.
I was
Coin
just
toss.
gonna say that. I was just gonna say that. How disgusting it was to see mainly Republicans come out and basically demonize
a drug dealer.
exactly,
Like,
basically
shut the
demonize
fuck up, dude.
Breonna Taylor for being involved with drug dealers. Meanwhile, I guarantee you 90% of the Republicans that were, demonizing Breonna Taylor probably have a sack at their house.
Yeah.
A personal little sack. Regardless if they're dealing it or not, that's besides the point. But
Right.
how the fuck are you gonna demonize a girl for being involved with somebody who's in, the air quotes illegal drug trade when you probably have a little personal stash at your house?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
sure,
don't know
that's
about
disgusting.
that. It's just the point that
In a lot of-
that you can justify that in your mind, and the fact that like for instance, like Bookie's never, a lot of us, maybe some of you guys never heard about that a particular case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of swept under the rug. It's a I don't know, like a product of whatever you can look at. You can clump it into like Gifford crime or something like that. But it's ridiculous. It's horrible that took
It is.
place.
It's very, very sad.
And it's a we have to look at it as like, like Rand Paul looked at it. It's like, this is nonsense that this goes on. And you can
You're putting people in really shitty situations for
Yeah.
no good reason.
Yeah.
You cannot justify the magnitude of how shitty that situation is to be in
yeah.
just primarily on drugs. You can't. I don't care how you explain it to me. You're not going to justify it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I mean, the Fourth Amendment, I think, pretty clearly
Yeah.
states that people should be. I don't have the exact verbiage in front of me, but people should be comfortable in their personal effects. They shouldn't, feel like their personal property is going to be invaded at any given moment because the state decided that whatever they had was, deemed illegal or was deemed irresponsible or anything like that.
By their definition,
or
by
was
the
deemed to threaten public safety.
Right, by the
which
state's
which
definition.
is generally what they'll go for.
Yeah.
Is it threatens public
The right of the
safety.
people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated.
Right, and so
And no warrant
without
shall issue.
reasonable
Yeah.
reason for it, and that's what the purpose of a warrant is. And it's not just because you have a warrant doesn't mean you can just bust in unannounced. That's not what that means. It doesn't say that, oh, because you have a warrant you can just fucking walk in and say I have a goddamn warrant, like or you can, well, in that case you just walk in and then you just do what you need to do, and then after the fact you say, oh, by the way, we had a warrant.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You knock on the door and you say, hey, we have a warrant. And if they don't comply, then that's when you go into your, you more
go through
aggressive tactics.
Your
But,
levels.
It should never be a number, like, first and foremost tactic to bust down a door unannounced.
Which is what no-knock raids,
Yeah.
give these police the right to do.
No.
Yeah, it gives them that legal blanket to skip all levels of what's the word I'm looking for? All levels of whatever. They can skip all of it and go right to violence.
Yeah.
Right.
And just to, damn, lost my thought for a second. And I just want to state that it's one of those things where, holy crap, I cannot remember what I was going to say. There's whiskey. But
We're deep into the bullet.
yeah,
at
we're
this
deep
point.
into this
We
point.
finished the bottle that we brought here, and we're in our reserves.
No, it's just one of those things where to bring it back to body cams, if we do have body cams, hopefully we can see this footage more easily and it's more occurring.
More accessible.
And then it gets to the masses more. Because that's really where change comes from, right? So if people see this happening more, again, there could be those things where they don't get a release as much, but now they have it. The percentage obviously is greater now. It does get released because they have it.
Right.
And that's something where hopefully change does come from this, because the fact that this is happening, I mean, I'm just completely disgusted by it. The fact that it's even allowed, and just
to just clarify, what's allowed?
No knock warrants.
Oh yeah.
Like
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, and if anybody says, "Well, this is for the good," and it's
Bullshit.
It's bullshit, but it's one of those things we have to say, we can't give up our freedoms, so 1 in a millionth it can help us.
Yeah.
Like, if you agree to that, great. I do not. And you can apply that to the COVID situation. You can apply that to what happened after 9/11.
Just to cut in, this is completely unrelated, but the same exact thing. When they, after 9/11, when they signed the Patriot Act, years later, when it came to light through Snowden that, the NSA was spying on all of its citizens, they found that over how many years was it? You'll know. You know? No. However many years they were spying on us before we found out, they found that there were only like a handful of incidences that this like blanket spying bill, like, the Patriot Act that they used to illegally spy on us, there was only like I think it was less than I want to say it was something as ridiculously low as like 3 or 4 incidences that
out of like hundreds of thousands,
out of probably millions, that the Patriot Act actually allowed them to stop an incident.
You know what? One of the major, I don't know.
I'll even say faster. Sorry, even if they did 100,000 blanket spyings on U.S. citizens, which is bullshit, and it stopped 900,000, that's still not right.
I agree.
I know you agree. I'm just stating for the audience,
right? But
like,
yeah, I agree.
That should
but I'm
not be
saying,
allowed.
like you were just saying, you could use this across the spectrum. You can, because when the NSA was illegally spying on us, they only benefited from illegally spying on us for like, I want to say half a dozen, and I'm pretty sure that's being conservative. I think I want to say the number I heard was like 3 or 4, but there was only half a dozen incidences that illegally spying for however many years it was, they were able to stop a handful of incidents. Like it's, and it goes back to what we're talking about. It's like,
one of the things I remember when the news reports started coming out about the NSA spying, scandal, was that one of the main things that came out of it was that NSA agents were passing around nudes that they would, intercept amongst each other. So that was, one of the. I feel like they got more nudes than they did terrorists throughout that entire escapade, if you will.
Why you? What?
I was waiting to see if anybody noticed.
Nice nipple.
So the government's seeing you naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring us back, bro.
Yeah, I'll bring us back.
Yeah, bring us back.
I was looking into this. So again, we're talking about Indian River Sheriff
Body
deputies
cams.
having body cams. So I was kind of interested, like, okay, what about?
I said, shit,
Wow,
that's
we
what we
got
were
off
talking
track.
about. What the fuck?
Where the hell were we?
Yeah, no, it was a good discussion, and everybody should listen to it. But I was thinking about, well, what about Vero Beach Police? It's obviously a smaller department, but they don't have body cams.
Well, so wait a second, because the article I read says that they are instituting them,
Indian River Sheriff.
not the police.
Not Vero
Beach
Beach
Police.
City Police.
Oh, okay.
That's a different department.
Yeah.
So they don't have body, as far as we know, I don't.
No,
think
they don't have body
yeah.
cams. They have no intention of getting body cams at the moment. The article I read stated that they're not against it, but they don't see any reason why. They
don't have $1.9 million probably compared to the county.
I'd hope they'd have less deputies than whatever the sheriff's department has.
Yeah.
But who knows?
No, you're right.
But
well, yeah, not deputies, whatever they're called,
Yeah.
lieutenants. Or...
But my thing is,
Cuck boys.
it was kind of interesting to read that one of the reasons was obviously money.
I'm so
All right.
fucked if I ever get pulled over.
That-
I'm so fucked if I
They're
ever
gonna be
get
like,
pulled over.
wait,
They'll be like, wait, you're that?
are you that guy from the podcast?
Be like, nope, don't know what you're talking about.
Straight to jail.
Yeah, straight to jail.
no, but so one of the reasons the Vero Beach Police doesn't have them is they don't see a reason to, because one, they don't have the money for it, and the budget doesn't work out correctly. Okay, I don't want you to tax me more. That's understandable. But it was kind of a weird instance that they stated that the second was, well, we don't have a lot of conflicts that lead to physical aggression or death. And I'm like, okay, but
Seems contrary to what Indian River County sheriffs say,
that and the
because
fact,
they have a lot of encounters that lead to
yeah,
maybe not deaths, but like a lot of physical encounters, as
Yeah.
far as I understand.
But I guess maybe Vero Beach Police doesn't. But even if they don't, like, again, like as I said in the early discussion, most of your times you come into contact with police, it's not going to be physical, but it doesn't mean they're still going to, go against your rights and do something that, if it's recorded, can stop.
Right.
Like
that's
unlawful
potentially
stops,
illegal. Right.
unlawful stops, saying that you sped when you didn't speed, things like this. So just because you're not beating the shit out of someone or putting your knee on their neck for 10 minutes to kill them doesn't mean you don't need. Yeah, doesn't mean you don't need body cams.
And so just to interject, and I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm going to come in with some like pro cop propaganda here.
Yeah. Go for it.
I just want to say, like,
From an anarchist?
yeah, no, exactly. So
No, go for it.
what I
We
want to
need
say
you.
is that
Yeah.
I know a lot of cops that, well, not a lot of cops, but I know some cops in this area. We have one mutual friend, me and Nick, that
Was a
used to
sheriff.
be a sheriff in this county, and also his father was a career sheriff in this county. And there's a lot of really good police officers in this county that
Great people.
We appreciate
Yep.
what they do and what they believe in. But no, I don't want to do a but on that. So what I wanted to say is that there's a lot of instances where these people actually get into hand-to-hand fights with actual perpetrators, people who really are trying to kill people, or they're trying to
Be violent.
yeah, they're trying to harm other people, and that's those are the situations where we really want police officers there responding and things like that. But and what our point, especially me and Nick, is that it doesn't have to be government run, but we can get into that in maybe a later episode or something. But it's just the point is there is real crime out there, and there's cops that are out there stopping these real crimes, and that's important. We need that type of service. The question is who should control that, and
We don't think the
and
state.
to what extent do we need the force to be expanded to stop those crimes? Because obviously we don't need a 20-man SWAT team rolling into one person's house with
For an ounce
5
of dope.
grams of weed.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So obviously that's a waste of resources. That's kind of our concern is the proportion of force used in these instances. Are you reacting proportionally to a guy who's a fucking weed dealer? Some fucking guy who's doped out in his living room, and you're rolling in with 20 SWAT team guys. Like, what good does that do us when you pay these guys, $25 an hour each, and we're paying thousands of dollars for a raid on a guy who literally was just selling people shitty weed.
Yeah.
Like, what good does that do the community? That's really the question.
Well, Chris, it gets pot off the streets.
It's off the streets.
I would.
Well, guess what? That shitty weed wasn't going to get anyone high anyways. All right? They were going to have to smoke the whole fistful to really...
Maybe just to throw like a devil's advocate real fast. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe now. maybe not out.
I thought that was a devil's advocate.
I know. I'm going to devil's advocate.
It wasn't enough, Chris.
You're going to
You can't be a
devil's
devil
advocate.
advocate as an anarchist. You just can't.
No,
Go ahead.
But I would argue, maybe not argue, but I would bring up the discussion that possibly police don't prevent crime; they investigate it. Now,
Okay.
you can make an argument that having a police force stops some crime, but crime still happens.
It brings down the incentive to do the crime
Possibly.
because there's a higher penalty.
Correct.
Wait, now does it bring down the incentive or does it increase the risk?
Yes, it increased the risk.
Which
also,
I guess
at the
goes
same
hand in
time
hand
increased
at the
it.
same- yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to take away your point that there are great cops out there who do great work. 'Cause
Questionable.
I would agree with that.
I'm just kidding.
completely.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe just to throw out a name who I know just retired. Hopefully, I'm saying
Should,
this right.
wait. Should we throw out names?
Yeah, Teddy Floyd, right?
Oh, okay. Sure.
Right?
Oh, well, there's the
We'll,
name.
Go ahead and
we'll,
name.
we'll,
Yeah, no,
we'll
he-
cut that part out.
No, he was a sheriff for a long time.
Yeah.
I actually played football
Oh, no,
for
you
one
can-
of his little league teams. He
Yeah,
was- he
and
was
I
a-
mean-
I don't know him as far as a cop goes, but he was a great guy.
Oh no,
Yeah.
you can call out the sheriff. That's fine.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a great guy.
That's
I mean,
good.
like, there's
Yeah.
great people out there who are cops.
We'll see.
Publicly,
and that's,
publicly elected official. You can
yeah,
call
and
him
see
out.
that's like where it becomes a tricky point as an anarchist because I do not believe in reform. I believe in abolition when it comes to state level police. But with that being said, I think there's an infinitely amount of really great people that think they're doing the really great thing, as far as being a cop and, that type of deal. And, I have a lot of friends that I have these open conversations with that are cops and are pursuing careers in the police force. What it comes down at, when you reduce all of these arguments down to the very basic point, and I think Chris can agree with me on this, is without state level or federal level or any sort of institutionalized agencies, all these politicians are, without cops to enforce these shitty laws, all these politicians are, all these tyrannical politicians that implement these laws that go directly against our Constitution, without cops, they're just assholes with shitty ideas.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's the cops that push the.
And that's really just a
The
challenge
envelope.
to. It's a challenge to anybody who is a police officer. Just think about, if you're making this excuse, whenever someone says this law is bullshit, why are you enforcing it? And your response,
I'm just doing my job.
yeah, your response is either I'm just doing my job or take it up with the politicians. They're the one that makes the laws.
You're the one enforcing
it.
it.
Why are you?
You're the one enforcing it. Yes,
You know?
you're the one enforcing it.
You've voluntarily decided to enthusiastically enforce these laws.
Yep.
So
by threat of violence. Nonetheless.
by threat of violence, exactly, and that is the key part. Is that you're the one that's out there on the front lines, enforcing these laws by threat of violence, and so you really need to think about just why you're doing it. Is it justified? And if you think it's justified, I mean, you should have a good reason for it. And if you really do think that these drug laws are justified, then that's on you. But I just think that I think you could think about it a little more deeply and just realize that you're. Without mincing any words, you're just being played by these politicians who have their ulterior motives.
I have a quote.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, hold on, before you guys keep going on. So yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with you guys at the point. So there's an idea, and
Not to cut you off. Think about what you're going to say.
But I'm about to cut you off.
No.
Sounds like he's about to cut me off.
I'm going to cut you off because this doesn't. What I and I speak for myself, obviously, but I think Chris can agree with me. I know a lot of really, really, really great people that are police officers. I know a lot of really, really great people whose family are police officers that are really great people.
And none of them end up being sheriff.
Not where I was going, but yes, you're right. And I mean, there's a reason for that. But regardless, that point.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. There's a lot of really great people that are cops, and they think they're doing the right thing, and that does not take away from, what they're doing. Anything I've said. I that's all I wanted to say. Go ahead.
As we said, we need that service.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who's providing it, and we don't think that the government is the best person to provide it.
I guess that's
I mean, I don't necessarily think that either.
Or the best entity to provide it.
So I don't necessarily think that either. But my thought was, when I was sitting here doing my study and whatever, and thinking about this particular topic and police and reform and things like that, I was thinking about you hear the kind of old stories about cops and what it maybe used to be like, and you hear the story of the guy who gets caught, drunk or whatever, and the cop drives them home, and there's this whole different idea about how
policing used to be.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I understand you guys' point about it not particularly being a government run thing, and I can't particularly disagree with that point. But I'm saying has the government got so big and instituted so many different things and become so militarized that that if we just rolled it back where cops were, more reformed and didn't institute things so ridiculous as the no knock warrant, and they weren't so militarized like they are today, and they were more involved in the community and things like that, in that nature, when they weren't going after such crazy victimless crimes and things like that, where they're knocking down someone's door for a bag of weed or whatever it may be, that it could be something that you could get behind in some ways. Is that too far of a thought?
No, I would agree with you.
Okay.
If I was Supreme Leader of the United States of America and could make rules on
Kim Jong-buki.
flick of my fingers, I would probably, before abolishing the police, would be okay, let's see what they look like after I make government much smaller and have less power.
Yeah.
Because that would inherently make police have less power and make them smaller, and see how that goes first. I completely agree.
What if you just gave them tanks?
I would rather give.
We already did that. We did that, and look what happened.
I mean, it's just the. I mean, either way this works, but the police are a product of the enormous government that we have today.
Agreed.
Right? So they're, like you said, they're enforcing all the ridiculous laws and things that we have in place, and they're trying to maybe in some way trying to figure out how to do it the best way and so forth. And we've already kind of not sing the praises of the police, but we know people, like you said, we know people who are good cops. We know that they're trying to do the good, the right thing. And same with the army and things of that nature. We know guys who have been over there, and they have good intentions. They're courageous and so forth. And we don't want to minimize that aspect of who they are, but we just don't believe in what the government is pushing. Yeah. And in the same way, I think that you hear these stories about the way cops used to be involved in the communities and how they're not just out to get this and that and write tickets and go after people and be super aggressive. And, it just seems like the more the government grows, the more laws that are instituted, the more aggressive the cops get, the more, so, I don't know, it's a challenging dynamic.
Oh, yeah. Not to take away from, me and Chris's point, I would never, ever want to be a cop in today's society.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
God, it's a thankless job. It's a deadly job. And yeah, I envy the guys that do it, but at the same time, I think they need to, They need to sit down and really think about what they're doing, because you know, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is, you know, while they think they're doing the right thing, I don't think it is.
And so I think going back to what Cam said about just taking good people and putting them in a bad system, I think it's a American problem right now, that we're both in the police force and in the military, like you just mentioned. We take really the most ambitious young men in our society, and we put them in these situations, you know, sending them over to Iraq or Afghanistan, putting them in the police force to violently enforce laws on their fellow citizens that really are not harming anybody. And it's really a crime against humanity what is going on, where we're taking really, as I said, the most ambitious and most, you know, thoughtful young men in our generation, and we're putting them in this system where they are just stooges of the state. And it's sad to watch because, I mean, especially for me, just people going overseas. Like, it's just like, you know, we've been at war over there for 20 years, and we're sending some of the most valuable people over there to die. You know, a lot of times. Now, thankfully, nowadays it's not. The death count isn't as high as it could be, but I mean, it's honestly just a waste of time in a lot of cases. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money,
and it's a waste of like valuable human life.
Yeah, because those people are valuable assets, and as I said, they're some of the most just ambitious people. And the reason they're over there is because they want to do something good for our society. They want to make a difference. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And it's just sad to see that they get caught up in this system where, you know, they're getting used for the benefit of the state.
Yeah. Any... We're approaching 2 hours, so
yeah. I think any closing statements are probably.
I have a closing quote. This is from, I can't remember who said this, but typical Nick fashion. But I'm gonna read it because I think it's I think this is the perfect discussion to bring it up, and I'm gonna read it.
Go ahead.
While you give your soul away, while you give your mind away, while you give your morals and decency away, advancing this dictatorship. You won't be okay with this dictatorship that you're serving, but your children and your grandchildren have to live in this world that you're creating. And one day, you're going to understand that. And I don't envy you in that moment, because it's going to be horrific when it dawns upon you the world that you've actually created. That's just a message to some of the law enforcement friends that I have. And viewers.
Especially for people who are living today and see everything that's happening around us, and we know it's fucked. Most of us, I mean, naturally just know that it's not right. What's happening around us, the authoritarian decrees that are coming out and all these things. And just to see those things happening around you and your reaction is, that's for the next generation to, you know, to deal with.
The next generation is your kids.
That's not a reasonable way to go about it. You know, that's not how our founding fathers went about it, and that's not how I plan to go about it. For you know, right. So I don't think that passing problems on to the next generation is a viable thing to do. And I don't think most people, when they hear that, think that, you know, that's a viable thing to do, because seriously, you're gonna just ignore everything that's going on around you, and you're just gonna say, nah, it's by the time it gets that bad, we won't have to worry about it. Like, that's
Ignorant.
it's ignorant, and it's also, it's honestly evil in my, interpretation of the way the chain of events happened, because Habs scored a point, 2-1 Tampa Bay, but it's it's evil because you're just passing on these nasty things that we know are not going to work in the long run to your next generation. It's I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Nope.
Okay. Very good.
Any closing arguments from you two? The more moderate libertarian?
Well, I guess the statement would be other. I mean, Shrek, man, we have covered a lot, which I hope everybody's listened to, because I think it was a pretty good discussion.
This was a good episode.
Yeah, everything
Talked a lot about good stuff.
The second half, body cams to get into policing and no knock warrants, all that stuff. I guess is there anything to take away from this? Body cams, in my opinion, are probably if we're going to have a state-run police, a good thing to have. Even if we had a private police, I think that's a great thing to have as well. If you have the ability to and want to have your own dash cam, I think that can save your ass if the unfortunate circumstances happen that you need to save your ass. Like they've stated before, police, it's a thankless job. It can be terrible at times. But I think that doesn't excuse the fact that we can talk about the terrible things that do happen because of policing, and the terrible things that have happened and that unfortunately will happen because of it. And hopefully, as Cameron stated, if we ever do get a peeled back version of our government, with a lower amount of it, a smaller government, as they would say. I think Republicans used to say that at one point, but they've kind of gotten away from that, understandably so.
Yeah,
because
they
love it. But hopefully it would look a little different, like it would, as in the old movies we used to see, where they would walk around downtown, say hi to the old shopkeepers, see that drunken guy kind of stumbling, try to help him out. Obviously, that's a
with the 6-shooter on your hip.
Yeah, that's an Americanized version. That's kind of probably a little Hollywood up, but still, that it's a nice thing to think of. That could be, but yeah, it's one of those things where time will tell before everything gets burned down.
Yeah,
yeah. So I don't want to repeat anything Bookie said there, but just to kind of make the point again that I brought up earlier. Just first of all, if you're listening to this, we appreciate it. We appreciate you listening, and just stay curious. Look into this stuff for your own. Don't just accept whatever narrative that
is being fed to you.
Yeah, exactly. What for instance, your parents is preaching one narrative. I would encourage you to look into it for yourself. And I think, like a lot of us, I mean, I don't know, from my particular myself and becoming on this sort of political journey, if you will, like the wars, right, was a huge persuasion towards to this sort of small government idea. Just the fact that we've been over there killing and also being killed in a sort of nonsensical way, has sort of persuaded me towards this idea of like smaller government and so forth. I just encourage you to just look at this stuff sort of from a non-biased standpoint and just ask yourself, is what we're doing okay, or should we be moving in? What direction should we be moving in? And I'm going to leave that up to you, But I've come to the conclusion that it's less government. We need to be less involved. We need to have people with more liberties, more freedom, and not having these laws that just keep piling out from every new politician, just coming out and making it bigger and bigger to the point where there's less liberties and more laws and more things that just kind of condenses into this very less free environment. So just I don't know. My only encouragement to you guys my exhortation to you guys is to look at this from a very curious, non-biased, objective point of view. Just look at it for yourself. Wade out into that water and just look at it. And I think you'll find that some of the stuff that we discuss is pretty interesting, and something that you maybe haven't considered before, and maybe it's time to consider it.
Just to interject quickly,
you already have your closing point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Just to interject,
I'm not going to cut you off, but
just
pull
to,
a Kanye West on you.
Yeah. Fuck you, Taylor Swift. So, I mean, we're talking about like body cams or whatever, but just for the anti-war type of philosophy, I think that one of the best resources that I have for just delving into some of this anti-war stuff and just seeing why some of the wars that we're waging are either pointless or they're very misled. Is antiwar.com is a very good resource. They constantly have just headlines. I mean, basically, you go to their homepage and they have headlines from all sorts of different sources throughout the web, and it's all about just like current events having to do with war. And you'll learn about everything that's happening right now. And so I would definitely recommend going antiwar.com to learn a little bit more about just foreign war stuff.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna close this up.